This week, we're discussing whether or not an Xbox tax exists. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who has no idea what an Xbox tax is. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, are you confused?
I am.
Great.
Even though this is what all my Twitter feed was all weekend. I just didn't really care to learn. And now you can explain it to me.
I think you'll get the gist pretty quickly. Yeah, we can decide if we believe this is a thing or not. But before we get into it, as always, I need to hear about it. Tell me about all the games you played this week.
I started a new game.
Oh.
Yeah. I played Jusant because it was a Game Pass game.
Yes, and I'm very jealous because that game looks like it would be a lot of fun.
It is well worth it. It is on PS5, right? It's just paid.
Yeah. It's on PS5. I think it's a $25 game, so not bad.
Okay. Yeah. I would have a hard time paying $25 for it.
Okay, fair enough.
It's very short.
Oh, did you finish it?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I beat it in a night. I don't know. I could tell you how long exactly I played it for. I don't know if that's like a spoiler. But I will say that is one playthrough. I fully intend on doing continuous playthroughs of this game.
Nice.
Like this could frankly be a game where like you just want to chill out and fucking climb rocks.
I got that.
I do think I'm gonna go through and 1,000 gamer score it. I think, let me see. I got to like 60 or 70% of all achievements on my first run through.
Oh wow.
I was pretty thorough too. Like there's a lot of collectibles as you'd kind of expect in a game like that.
Sure.
And I got mostly everything, but I wasn't like, especially at the end of the game, I think I was just like ripping through it. That's the hard thing is like, once you get really good at climbing, and it's an interesting mechanic. It's like left trigger is to like grab with your left hand, right trigger is to grab with your right hand. And, it's not like a Bennett Foddy game. Like it's not frustrating like that. But once you get good at it, you can just like fly. I would love to see like a speedrunner do this game.
Do you think it's like a prime candidate for the speedrunning community?
It's like for me, I think it would be really cool. For them, they'd probably be like, "Oh, I can rip through this in 10 minutes." It's not by any means like a hard game.
Okay.
I think pretty much anyone could play it.
Nice.
Which has value.
Yeah. Do you think you said about like you don't know if you'd pay 25 for it? Do you think that's because you don't see the game as truly worth 25, or because anymore with like the subscription services and being able to have so many games baked into the cost of the subscription service, you kind of have like a skewed mindset of like how you would spend money on video games?
I think if you're just looking to play the game and not like spend time exploring, it's not worth $25.
Okay.
If you plan on like playing the game over and over and over again and like not using guides to find all the spots for the achievements, then it's absolutely worth it.
I got that. Makes sense.
I think you could play it twice in a row and enjoy it and like not feel like you just played it.
Sure. Okay.
It's one of those things where like, okay, you get all of the skills that you had at the end of the game, like actual skills that you earn. There's no like skills that you apply in the game, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
to your character. And like you learn what to look out for as you play the game. Like I think you could enjoy doing that. So if you plan on doing that, it's worth 25 to me. If you're just looking to play it, hopefully you have an Xbox with Game Pass or you wait for it to go on sale.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well,
It will, I guess I won't say exactly how long it took me, but it took me less than 5 hours.
okay. And then you figure if you're like looking to do it all, maybe you like double your time.
Yeah, I
If
would
like
say
if you're trying to put like a bow on it, right? Like you're saying like obviously there's like the ability to just keep going and doing it more and stuff like that, but like if you put like a hard cap on it somehow, like you could see it being pushed to like 10ish hours.
yeah, I would say you could probably get 3 good playthroughs of it if you're not using guides,
Okay. Nice.
which I would recommend doing.
Right.
Like just playing through it and exploring. I mean, that's the whole point of the game. There's a little bit of a story, but it's your standard like abstract indie thing.
Love it.
Um, yeah, super fun. If you have Game Pass, absolutely recommend you check it out as soon as possible. If you don't, again, I guess just my guidelines. Um, if you plan on like actually embracing it and exploring, pay the 25. If not, wait for it to go on sale.
Love it. Um nice. So just Sant, anything else?
I played a little bit of Forza Horizon,
Okay.
mostly as an experiment to see if I could stream it at my parents' house over Thanksgiving.
And how did that go?
Um, Not terrible.
Nice. Okay.
So I
See.
don't know. I don't know if you and I have had this conversation, but they got Starlink.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
So their internet's very good now in terms of like one being able to have multiple devices on it, like watching videos, whatever. Um, so and they live, as we've talked about, where your parents live, where there's, they had 3 meg up on a good or 3 meg down on a good day,
Right.
probably like nothing up. With whatever I think they probably had Verizon or something. Um, and it was like playable. I did one race, and I came in second, which like I don't always come in first in races, but I was pretty happy with that considering the amount of times like I did have input lag and I put myself into a wall.
Sure.
Forza is nice because there's like a rewind button. Uh, so like that saves you a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean it kind of worked.
Nice.
And I
That's
was using
awesome.
a Stadia controller for it.
Oh my god, look at you. You're finding uses for that thing left and right. You love to see it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Oh, and I also played more Pikmin,
Of
which
course.
still a great game with my Stadia controller.
Now you're just flexing.
Yeah, you bet.
That's great. That's a nice little week.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Are you ready to hear my week?
Always.
Okay, I'm so excited for this.
Me too.
What is the coolest game
The coolest game.
that I'm trying to think of like how to like pose this question for you to try and guess what I played this weekend. It's like the coolest game, coolest concept of a game from like when we were in like middle school, high school. And it's like a game we used to play.
Uh like frequently.
No, not frequently, but we played it.
Coolest concept of a game. I mean, it's not WWE, is it?
No, it wasn't
Okay.
WWE.
He did send me a little spoiler on that. I don't know if he
Mm-hmm.
actually bought it, but
Mm-hmm.
um, and I don't know. Is it on PlayStation?
It was on everything.
Okay.
I did specifically get it for PlayStation. I want to say that I know we had it. One of us had it for PlayStation. Mm, One of us, and it would have technically been my brother. I think might have had it for Wii, or your brother did. I don't remember. But are you stumped?
I I I am, and I want to think about it, but for the sake of the podcast,
On Friday to take part in the biggest holiday in America, Capitalist Friday,
Mhm.
um, which we actually didn't really partake in, but a secondhand video game store was running a deal on accessories, so I bit the bullet and bought a Rock Band slash Guitar Hero guitar,
Oh, you did it.
and
We talked about this.
and got came back. I have Rock Band 3 and Rock Green Day Rock Band on the PS3, and as
Very
soon as we
nice.
booted it up, um, and like started playing it, both Shelby and I immediately were like, we should have gotten two guitars. So on Sunday, so on Sunday, we went back and got a second guitar.
What's you walk in, the video game guy, the guy at the counter is like second guitar.
I So it is funny because as we were checking out, the woman who was checking us out did recognize us. Like we had been there a couple of times now, and but I think it was the fact that we were there Friday and Sunday again with and getting a second guitar. And yeah, and it was a blast. We also picked up a bunch of the other like we picked up as many basically rock bands slash guitar heroes as we could find. Um
I love it.
and yeah, so Shelby and I were rocking out, and just like I mean we've talked about this like a couple of different times, but just like the like gut punch of nostalgia that you feel, it was so amazing. It was euphoric, uh, and I'm like pumped to play more basically. I was getting like
So,
the sore wrists from like the finger tapping, and like some songs that are making you strum a lot, so my right shoulder was like starting to hurt after a little bit. I was just like, Jesus Christ, this was a workout.
um, so I take it you didn't have any issue with like lag
Uh,
with that game.
no, I didn't. Uh,
Interesting.
Thankfully. I mean, they do have like a whole thing where it's just like some TV inputs may experience lag, and you can recalibrate and all that stuff. But yeah, I didn't have the need to do that, which was good.
Okay. Yeah, we played at Justine's parents' house years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like unplayable.
Mm.
And we tried like messing with the settings, and we just could not get it. And that was for the Wii, which I remember like that version having more issues than like we had Rock Band for the PS2, and it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, everything was wired.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. With the PS3, I
Um,
do have like the like little adapters or whatever that they would have you plug in, and then with the Wii, you would put the actual Wii remote into the slot, right?
right, which was like awesome to have everything wireless,
Yeah.
but was a pain.
Yeah. The hardest part was getting it to like sync,
Mm,
and like getting it to like accept like the batteries and stuff for like the first time, like because you know people leave batteries in and they get corroded, and you have to like clean that well and stuff. But
yeah.
and they weren't too bad. Like I think the store that we got them from like did, and probably I'm sure they tested them too. So you know I was confident, and they have like a good return policy and all this other stuff. So I wasn't like that worried. But for the first like I don't know 10 15 minutes maybe, we were like messing with that, trying to like get a little bit more of the like crud out so that we could like get it. And then next thing I know, it was working, and we were strumming away. And
I
then
love it.
the craziest thing, and I don't know if this is like an experience that you had, um, So I'm really just bringing up like PS3 era nostalgia. But you remember how like games before you had to like pay consistently for online, like games would come with like an online pass membership for that specific game.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you like didn't have that code, it would maybe cost you like $2, $3 or something like that to get the license from the store, like from the
Yep.
PS store. Um, so whatever. But like games constantly would have little code sleeves, and it would like give you like DLC or like a mission or something like that. And I didn't realize how the Rock Band track packs worked. So like I bought one of the games that like discs that we bought was like a track pack that had like 20 songs on it. And I thought the way it worked was that like you put the disc in, and like in like the other games you can export your library and then import it into like one of the mainline games. You can like export uh your Rock Band library and then like import it into Rock Band 3.
Hmm.
And it brings
Okay.
all the songs from Rock Band that are like on the disc, as well as like any songs that you had downloaded in the past, I guess, specifically for, I don't know. I don't really know how it all works, but like the track packs are their own game that you can just like put the disc in and just play from that song list, but you can't
Really?
export them into the other game. And so I was like, oh fuck. Like that's kind of annoying because there's only 20 songs on here, and it's just like a pain in the ass to have to like swap to this one and do all that noise. Um so I was like trying to look up a video. I was like, how do you get these in? And it was like, oh, well, there's a code. And I was just like, ah, fuck. So I like pull it out. The code is still in there because this is on the back of the pamphlet. So I go to the PS store, circa PS3, and I'm plugging in this code, and it fucking accepted it.
Wow.
And I was like, no shot. That is insane. Like, this has got to be 15 years old. And just the person who like had it never put it in. So I'm not going to take that risk ever again, but like holy shit, that was like such a great feeling. But the PS store glitched and like froze and then like force quit out. And so I was like, nothing started downloading. So I was like, what the fuck? So I went back to the PS store. I tried plugging it in again, and it was like, this code's already been used. And I was like, oh, you're shitting me. And I tried to go into my downloads, and it like wasn't at the top. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I was like getting ready to like contact PlayStation about my fucking PS3 Rock Band code. And then I just went to my downloads list and thought, whatever, I'll just go to the bottom. And it happened to be at the bottom. It was in order by date, except for that one, which was all the way at the bottom. And I fucking downloaded and it worked. And I still can't believe it.
That's amazing.
What a ride. What a ride. But yeah, so.
That's like, oh man, that's the 2023 hit of nostalgia that you need.
Right. Right. So,
Like, not only did you get to play the game, but you got to go into the PS3 PlayStation Store, put
deal
a
with it
12
glitching
digit
out.
code in.
Oh man. Yeah, so you got to get down here so we can rock out a little bit.
Dude, all night.
Found out all right, I had called my dad like earlier in the week to confirm that like our drums were still at home. And so I was like, hell yeah. So I'll be getting those at the holidays. Um yeah, great stuff. Um I mean, that was kind of the highlight. I also played. I'm working through games that are going to be like leaving PlayStation Plus, see what I can platinum and stuff to keep working there. And so I did play this game called Foreclosed. And basically, it's like,
Is that like the cyberpunk?
yep,
Like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Like your IDs are like owned by the corporation you work for, or like
Yeah.
the general government, depending. And like if your company goes bankrupt, you like lose your identity. Pretty interesting story. uh Gameplay is like fine, like it was like enjoyable for what it was. It's like a 3-hour experience. And I was like following along with a guide to like find like this like one collectible. And the game does have a bad glitch that if you like get a collectible then die, sometimes it doesn't remember that you got the collectible, but it also won't let you recollect the collectible.
Mm.
And there's like a whole thing for like it's like a secret ending that if you have them all at the end of the game, you get like a secret ending. That's a trophy as well. So my first playthrough, I did everything except that. I apparently missed one or it like glitched. So I had to like go back and play it again. And on top of that, there is like a PS4 version of it. So I am going to have to play it again. So I was really hoping I would only have to play it 2 times. I'm going to have to play it a third time. And hopefully it all goes well on that attempt, so that I can get 2 fairly easy platinums out of it.
That game was hard. At
It
least I thought so.
Yeah, it is challenging until you realize like the level like manipulation that you can do. So like there's like certain enemies that will take like 50 bullets to kill. But if you throw an object at any of the enemies, it's basically a one-shot kill.
Mm.
And so like you get that and then you just got to get really like patient with like headshotting because like all the other people will basically be a one-shot kill as long as you hit them in the head. And yeah, you just got to be patient with like you can only take like maybe 5 shots. And so if you have like so many people, you really have to like pick and choose and then like sit there, let your health come back and go again. So yeah, definitely challenging from that point of view. And then also some of the like level traversal where you have to like sneak past like like sentries and stuff like that was definitely like difficult the first time I played it. And then the second time I knew exactly like the paths to go. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. I would I would try that game again.
It's short too, so like it's like a pretty
Like,
enjoyable experience.
yeah, it was like 5 or 6 hours or something like that.
Maybe I think my second playthrough probably only took me like maybe 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay.
First playthrough was probably a
So
little bit longer.
my fun story with that game is that was a Stadia game for a while. And I kept pushing it off, kept pushing it off. I always wanted to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the final night of Stadia. And I think it was we didn't really know what time Stadia was shutting down. They gave like a window somewhere between like midnight and 4 a.m.
Right.
Eastern, I think. And or no, I can't remember. I thought there was a pretty defined time because I knew if I started that game and it said like when I googled it 5 hours to complete on average, like depending on how many times you die
Mm-hmm.
and if you're going for like completionist or not. Like okay, I'll start it. I played an hour or two of it and I like could not get far because I was rushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was literally just trying to run through and just shoot everybody and like speed run it.
Yep.
Did not work. Um, so I stopped playing that to move on to another game that I started and beat that night. But um, yeah, I enjoyed it. That's a good reminder. I don't know if that game's on Game Pass. You said it's on the PlayStation Plus collection.
Yeah, it was on the extra tier or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And it's leaving in December, so
Do you know what game? Sorry to hijack your week, but
no, that's basically it. So by all
you know what
means.
game snuck out on me on Game Pass in November? Can't remember if it was November or October.
Like snuck out, meaning it left
Like
the
left the
service.
platform. Yeah.
Oh no, no! But
Yeah,
am I going to be really sad?
I'm actually very upset about this.
Oh god.
Um, Trek to Yomi.
Oh no way!
I never got to play. I had it installed on my Xbox, and I always meant to get to it. And I went to play it last weekend or something like that, and it said I needed to buy it.
That's brutal.
Oh man, yeah. I finally got to the point where I was like, I'm just gonna sit down and play this. And it I can't remember if it had left like late October or like mid November. But I was less than a month off.
That sucks. That is the worst.
Yeah. I think that's the first time like Game Pass has ever really gotten me.
Yeah. I had an instance not too long ago where I think it's like I think the game's called like Kingdom Come Deliverance or something like that. It's like this like big RPG set in like medieval times, and it's just like a big open world game. Can dump a lot of hours into it, and I had like had it on my wish list for a while, and it was on PlayStation Plus, like the extra tier or whatever. And so I had downloaded it, and then it came time that it was like leaving, and I at that point couldn't remember if I had gotten it as a free game, like for a monthly game, or if I had downloaded it because it was like a part of the library. And so I didn't know if like it leaving was going to actually like leave, because if it was a monthly game but it's also leaving the service, you still have it. But if it wasn't like a monthly game, right, and like you only had it through the service, then you would obviously lose access to it, right? Like basically like what happened with you with Truck to Yomi. And
Right.
so I just kind of gambled because I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to beat this, and like try and like rush through it all and everything in time. So hopefully it was a free monthly game, and it like left, and then I was locked out of it, and I was like, fuck, like, god damn it. The game's like on sale for like $5 all the time, so it's not going to be that bad to just bite the bullet there. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I've had that happen a couple of times. Happened with me with Little Nightmares too. I like could have sworn I had Little Nightmares, and then I went to go play it because I want to start working through those. I think I probably went to go play it when they announced what's coming out, Little Nightmares 3. Um, and I like noticed I was locked out of it. I was like, fuck, I really thought I had this game. And it's like, nope, you only had it because it was a part of like the library, the overall catalog or whatever. And it no longer is. So also a game that was like always on sale. So I've bought it since then. I bought like the dual pack of 2 and 1 together for like $10 or something stupid. I was like, oh yeah. But
So since we're talking about the alleged Xbox tax in this episode, I do want to talk about something that I'm kind of just realizing as we've talked through this and the effect of Game Pass. Um, the majority of games um that have left Game Pass that I have decided to buy were indie games,
that makes sense.
which is just so interesting because, like, I mean, AAA games don't leave anywhere near as frequently, but like, it's cool that these indie developers are getting funding to build games to be on Game Pass for a short period of time. I mean, they're only up there for like 6 months
Mm-hmm.
to maybe 8 or 9 months. But I've bought, I think, two indie games, maybe three, not necessarily on Xbox. I've bought two on Switch. Um, but because I got exposure on Game Pass, I decided I wanted to keep playing them and buy them.
Mm-hmm.
First one was Chinatown Detective Agency, which I started playing on Game Pass, really enjoyed, so I bought it. Haven't played that recently though. Untitled Goose Game. I ended up buying that on Switch. Kiwi. I don't know if you've. I think you and Shelby played that game, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep. The like
Okay. Yeah, I
mail.
bought. Yeah, yeah. I bought that just yesterday. And now I'll probably buy Trek to Yomi.
Man,
Like all these like small and independent games, I'm just buying once they leave.
so you never even like had the chance to even start Trek to Yomi?
No,
Oh
but
my
I would.
god.
But I really want to buy it.
Ah,
I want to play it. So I
yeah.
mean, I'll have to see because there's a period of time after games leave that I get like a discount on them.
Right.
So I'll have to check.
Isn't that just like the like such an indictment of like how crazy it's been for releases and stuff like that? Because we were both so high on Trek to Yomi and like thought it was like so cool, and then neither one of us has had an opportunity to actually play it yet because we've just had our attention on so much other stuff. It's just so
Yeah,
crazy.
it's like It's amazing to think of that game came out this year. I think did Sifu come out this year or was that last year?
Sifu was last year. Wait, was Trek to Yomi
Okay.
this year or was that also last year?
I don't know actually. It feels like it was just this year.
I thought they both were last year, but holy shit!
Could be.
If Trek to Yomi was also this year, that would be mind blowing. I'm pretty sure they were both last year. Sifu actually might have been 2021 if I'm like
Oh,
really
that
thinking
sounds
about it.
right.
I don't know though. I don't know. It's crazy.
But
Um,
that's like Sifu is what prompted me to really want to play Trek to Yomi because Sifu wasn't on Xbox.
right.
Released February 2022. Sifu.
Okay.
And Trek to Yomi was shortly after that. I
I'm
think
yeah,
that would have also been
pretty confident.
May 2022.
Crazy. Crazy.
But then Switch 2023.
So yeah, that just like shows how packed everything's been and how difficult
Yeah.
it's been to actually like divide and conquer your time. Um, all right, yeah, let's get into this Xbox tax. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so you said that you like saw like some stuff. So if you had to guess what this is referring to, what people are saying this like Xbox tax is, what would you think
You
initially?
know, it's really funny, and this is gonna sound super stupid, but I believed it, and I think it's funny that like somebody bought a Series X and they posted like, "Oh, I paid $60 in tax for this." I don't know what state they were in, but I didn't pay attention. I didn't do the math, and since I didn't know the state, like it's hard to do it.
Mhm.
I was like, "Is there actually an extra tax on Xbox, like monetary tax?" Um, and then you and I kind of like shortly discussed it
Mhm.
with something that has to do with like games ratings on Xbox or something like that.
Yeah, it's like it's basically that. It's basically like a predetermined discrimination against Xbox that it's always going to be like Xbox is always going to be fighting this uphill battle. I think like this all technically it was a lot of it was around Starfield. I guess specifically it's more so about how Starfield was like snubbed at the Game Awards. Because a lot of people thought that it should be maybe nominated for Game of the Year. Um, so I guess to like do some like bullets of Game Rant article basically sums it up that like Xbox tax refers to the perception that the Game Awards show discriminates against Xbox titles, as evidenced by the lack of Game of the Year nominations for Xbox games in recent years. So yeah,
So
it's
it's
not
specific against the Game Awards.
specifically talking about the Game Awards. A lot of people have been
Okay.
like bleeding it over into like review scores. Destin, who will constantly remind you that Game Pass is the greatest deal in gaming, was getting a lot of shit about being against Xbox, which doesn't make sense to me. I've always thought that he was a pretty good champion of Xbox and
I agree.
provided like decent push for things that he felt deserved it when it came to Xbox. So I saw he was getting like a lot of crap for it because of like reviews
I
that he had given or because of reviews that IGN has given. But then there's also like the flip side of things. Like IGN, I know of all publications, IGN was the one that didn't give Starfield the highest review, especially when IGN is typically known for just giving an 8 and up. But I think it was like the newest Halo got a 9 from IGN. Forza, both I want to say got nines.
yeah,
Um,
that sounds right.
so I think there was like definitely there's definitely pressure, or I guess this is definitely getting pushed more on Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards. But I did see a lot of noise about how Xbox games have rated recently and how people feel Xbox has been slighted in that regard. I think it is fair bringing up the whole Game Awards thing. We talked about it last year how we were surprised and thought that Forza um, deserved a Game of the Year nominee or nomination. and then found it weird that like the reasoning for it was like it wasn't released at the right time, but yet it was still nominated for something else. So it was just very interesting how that was all handled.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it's basically this like perception that basically Xbox is given the short straw, whether it's by media, the Game Awards, and what have you. And I'm curious, do you think that this is actually a thing? And yeah, just leave it at that. Do you think there is a uh, preconceived condition against Xbox?
I mean, I think you could certainly make the case.
Oh, sure, you could make the case. I think you can make the case either way. I'm asking tinfoil hat, like is it so deep? Is it just surface level and very obvious, or is it not really a thing and people are trying to make it a thing?
Um, I I see the merit that
Into thinking what?
into thinking that there is an Xbox tax, but and I think my main case for this is look at how many times like PlayStation exclusives at least have the nomination for Game of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
But I do inherently believe that Sony is more likely to produce games that fit the Game of the Year mold
Mm-hmm.
than Xbox is.
I think that's
And
a
I
I think that's a fair point.
like and obviously, we talk about this all the time. It's why we're both such big fans of Sony's that their narratives, their writing, and putting everything together is just unmatched in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like first party creation. Um, and then of course, like with Nintendo, I mean, I would say a Nintendo Game of the Year nomination is not guaranteed every year, but you get a game like Super Mario Bros, which is very well done. It fits a very good mold that they developed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they get a lot of people to play it of different variety.
Yeah, and then you see like Zelda, which I think kind of gets carried off of like its name alone. Like I I I would put pretty good money on the next Zelda game, whenever it is, whatever it is, to be nominated. But I could see,
Yeah.
um, like a lot of people actually pushed and said that Pikmin 4, you know, might have been deserving, right, of like a
I mean, I fucking agree with that.
yeah, of like a GOTY nomination. And a lot of people were saying probably over like Mario, and then that's where like name brand recognition might
Yeah,
might help
absolutely.
push. Um, but you look at that and you're like, okay, well they just had a Mario, a Zelda, and a Pikmin game. I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo does not have a GOTY nominee for like the next 2-3 years.
Mhm.
And basically until a Zelda or something really blows people away.
Metroid Prime 4.
Right, maybe. Probably not. Uh, 12 people will buy it, and Nintendo will be validated again, and then
Yeah.
and then everybody will catch up, like is always the case with a Metroid game. It seems.
Yep.
Although was Metroid
Um,
Dread nominated for Game of the Year? Why do I feel like it was?
I think it was too.
I can't remember. I know it definitely was at the
I
awards
think it.
show.
I think it was.
Um, but yeah, I think you kind of said it where it's like you can definitely see. And again, I mean, you can chip away at paint anywhere and make something out of anything. But this isn't like too much of a stretch to say that there does seem to sometimes be this like inherent bias um, against Xbox, uh, whether it's in like reporting, the way that publications will like change the wording of like certain things to describe Xbox, but they'll describe that same thing for PlayStation in a much more like poetic or like letting it down a little easier way. Sometimes it may seem, um, but also, again, I feel like if you do scratch hard enough, you can make something out of just about anything.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it's like this like delicate, like weird. I want to say people are just trying to make something out of this, but then enough is presented that I'm like, it's like that's a pretty good point. Like some people are blowing it up more than they need to, but I think enough people are making solid enough cases, good enough cases to kind of showcase that like maybe they are getting a bit of an unfair shake. And then the last thing I'll say, just to kind of like sum it up, is kind of what we talked about with the when we were talking about the nominees for Game of the Year and stuff, and that's just sometimes like it's really tough. And I think this year was like a tough one, and I don't think that like I don't think Starfield not being nominated. And I'm trying to think like what else could have been nominated from Xbox this year. Like what else do we think is like reasonable or close enough that it could have been nominated?
Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Forza, obviously. I mean, one, it's a racing. I would say there's a racing game tax, but that's across the board.
Yeah, it's like a fighting
I think
game.
it just, I think it just happens to be that Microsoft makes the better racing game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, there was Hi-Fi Rush, um, Redfall, which very clearly is not going to get it.
Right.
Um, there really wasn't anything from like the foundational Xbox Game Studios. I think that was it. Like next year will be a different conversation, but
Yeah. So I mean, I think wow, stumbling over my words. I think Hi-Fi Rush is a good point, and it actually got nominated for some of those like more
it
like
got
banner setting nominees that a lot of other Game of the Year nominations were also nominated for, where like Starfield was not to be seen in any of those.
yeah.
And that was something that we had like pointed out. But again,
Here
like I think it's just like I think it's like a really tough year, and it's not necessarily such an indictment against Starfield or against Hi-Fi Rush. I think it's just like this is kind of how the year shook out, and it can start to feel like well, it just always seems like it shakes out that way, but I don't know.
I I think that Xbox fans are kind of still in the denial phase of grief because I mean the game got what on average a 7 out of 10.
What's that? Starfield?
Starfield, yeah.
What was the Metacritic? I would just go off of that for like the
I think
rough
IGN
guess.
gave it a 7 out of 10, and that's kind of the one I'm sticking with because that's one that has the most controversy behind it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous
Um,
though.
which I agree with the controversy there. Sorry to sidebar, but like they allegedly did not even follow their standard review process. They just kind of one of the upper people at IGN just kind of said, "I'm doing this,"
Mm-hmm.
and um, again, 7 out of 10, still a good game, but I don't know. Anyway, people are actually calling for Destin Legier to like do the review for that. But
I mean, it has an
I th-
83 on Metacritic and a 7 out of 10 for user ratings. I can't remember if Metacritic has the like anti review bombing or not. So,
okay.
the user score, maybe it got, it's crazy that we do this. Yeah, we live in a society and all that, but so maybe I would take that with like a little bit of a grain of salt. People just being like extra harsh just to be dickheads.
I mean, frankly, 83 is on the upper end of what I thought it would be.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were a ton of
It's
publications that gave it a 9 out of 10. I think there were a few 10 out of 10, stuff like that. So,
I I just like wonder, you know, I don't think it lived up to the hype. And I wonder if people were giving it 9 out of 10s because they felt like they had to.
Sure.
I don't think it's the generational game that we were all hoping for. And frankly, when we're done talking about Starfield, even if there's updates, I don't think it'll ever live up to that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, and again, in a year with really, really good games, it, it's hard. If it wasn't promoted, and this was done by Xbox, so I don't think they have anyone to blame really but themselves. But if it wasn't promoted to be like this game changing game, um, I think it would probably. Uh, I think it may have been nominated.
Hmm.
Um, but the fact is, like, I enjoyed it. I haven't played it in 2 months. Um, Not necessarily the game's fault; it's just kind of my life's fault. But like, there are some things that like I believe are unforgivable for what the game is trying to be.
Hmm.
Most namely, like loading screens every time you go through a door.
Classic Bethesda.
Yeah. Granted, they're not that long, but it's
Right.
enough to like take you out of the game. So I don't know. It's hard. I feel like the concept of an Xbox tax is still like people taking for granted that Starfield was going to be a Game of the Year nominee.
Yeah. I
I and
also
I
go ahead.
No, I'll say I don't think it's necessarily the Game Awards' fault. I mean, what are they supposed to do? Like an 83 isn't really a Game of the Year score.
Right.
And I understand that, critics are critics and you should just play the games that you enjoy,
Yep.
but
Yes.
you have to take it into consideration.
That is like the larger message, I think, right? And that's kind of what I had sent you, where it's just like people get so worked up about this stuff that is just so ancillary and just does not matter at all, right? Like what the like what does it matter if your favorite game of the year wins or is even nominated for game of the year? It changes nothing about the experience that you have. Um Maybe it makes it more of an uphill battle for you to convince other people to play it, but that's it, right? Like at the end of the day, just enjoy the games that you want to enjoy. Um, I think you brought up something interesting about how like uh, potentially Xbox fans are somewhat just like still in I guess like denial or I forget what exactly you said, but like I think it's so telling about how much better Xbox is now compared to how they were just like a few years ago, right? And like how like well, more than a few years I guess now, like they've been on this roadmap for a good bit. But regardless to what I'm saying, um that like you almost don't appreciate how much better things are because they still aren't at a level that is like I guess like deserving of like the left and right appreciation for everything that they're doing, right? Like they're just finally catching up to where they should have been for quite some time. And so because like within the bubble, it's like however many times over better, you think that it's now just like standing up and like you said, and not that like critic score should be the only thing, but yeah, like an 83 is still a really good game, but especially in such a tough year, you have to like take a step back and say, well, is it actually deserving or was the hype trains just so massive for it and stuff like that. And so I think it's like one of those things where it's worth bringing attention to, but it's going to take Xbox releasing another game to the scale of something like Starfield that does well, right? Like if they had a 90 plus um rated game, then I would be
That
like
wasn't a racing game.
that wasn't a racing game. Although I will say what's the one that just came out Motorsport?
Yeah.
I will say
It's like,
I would be blown away if that game was ever nominated for Game of the Year. However, Horizon does
yeah.
not seem that shocking to be if that would have been nominated, that would have made sense to me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like motorsport's very niche. Um, but Horizon anyone can enjoy.
Right. Um, but yeah, like so yeah, that's not a racing game. Once that like happens, so yeah, it's got to be an RPG. It's got to have some like narrative behind it. It's got to be one of those types of games. Once they release something like that rates and reviews um fairly well against the year's competitors and it's not nominated for game of the year, then yes, I think Jeff Keighley might have an ulterior motive. But that's not it's not really the case just yet. The Forza thing rubs me a little bit the wrong way from last year. I still
Yeah.
stand by that, and I remember you were very like upset and could not we neither one of us could wrap our heads around the reasoning, but
I feel like Forza Horizon, like I feel like that was a bigger rob than Starfield.
yeah, I would agree. I would agree, especially because like you look at like what other like games were nominated, um, and you look at like what the rest of the year was, and I definitely saw a path for motorsport or not motorsport, sorry, Horizon, to be up there.
Yeah, I and that was a finished game. There was nearly nothing wrong with that game when it came
Mm-hmm.
out. Like you couldn't even make an argument. If you were like digging.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of like one bad glitch that I had.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. Like Xbox, like the next Gears of War or something has got to be a finished game. It's got to be damn near perfect
Mm-hmm.
for it. Like I could see a game like that getting considered. Um, I think there's just so much stigma behind Halo now, and I'm not saying it's like unwarranted,
Mm-hmm.
but like I don't think Halo will ever be nominated for a Game of the Year again.
Unless it makes
So
such like massive like it yeah, Halo's in such a position where it can't possibly do everything right to make everyone happy anymore. And it could be any number of reasons. One of which being that like the series has just gone on for as long as it has, right? And so it becomes harder and harder to actually like make improvements or to like align with like the things that certain people, certain groups will like about it.
yeah,
But yeah, like I want to see like isn't uh sorry, I'm gonna need your help. Who made who like was a part of Bethesda and like made one of the Fallout games and is like an Xbox studio now?
um, Obsidian,
They're working, aren't they? Are they the ones who are working on like a magic-y medieval-y type RPG?
I believe so.
Um, yeah, like I want to see something like that, something that's like maybe a newer IP because I that would be my issue with Gears is like are people gonna find enough issue with it because of how it deviates from something that they used to like? You know, you worry
Yeah,
about that with like a long running series. But yeah, so like honestly, any of the games that they showed during their showcase, there were so many that I was like really into. Maybe this new Fable, right, like resets things.
I was gonna ask how you would feel about Fable, like
Yeah,
it being like a comeback series.
well, yeah, exactly. Like it's kind of what I was I think trying to get at with Halo, and I just worried that it's almost too far gone. But like if Fable, sorry, like tripping over words, if Fable can like reset and like really like just make what it is that like Fable needs to be, yeah, I could certainly see that getting the recognition. You know, critics aren't going to care that you play as a female character. You know, the public will cry about it and complain, but the critics will eat that shit up like if the game's good and they'll give it a high score and
Right.
The Last of Us Part 2 will win 30 awards. So, you know, public outcry isn't necessarily always going to be an indictment of um, how well a game's success will be and how it'll favor when it comes to awards and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't want to say there's an Xbox tax. It's a weird balance. I don't want to say there's an Xbox tax because I want Xbox to, like, there's very clearly some internal development they need to do to
Mm-hmm.
get to PlayStation's level
Mm-hmm.
in terms of games that should be nominated for Game of the Year. And like maybe that's not what they're going for. I don't think that the Game Awards is the be all end all of gaming. Like you can be a good musician and not win a Grammy. There's a
Mm-hmm.
very specific formula that you need to follow to win a Grammy. Doesn't mean you're a bad musician. It just means you're not going to be like the most popular.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that Xbox needs to get one of those games out? I do, but I don't think they should sell their soul to get there.
100%.
Unfortunately, gamers are very fickle, and that will be a merit of whether or not they're successful. But I think that Microsoft and Xbox have a clear sight on what they need to be, and
Yeah.
they're not going to go out of business because they don't produce a game of the year.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think like to go even further back, I think that's like great if you have tied yourself to the Xbox horse and you want to see the company do well. Um, like that's great, but uh, whether or not the company does well, especially because it's like what we were saying last week in a way with like PlayStation, right? Where it's like, is it time to hit the panic button on PlayStation? Um, and like at the end of the day, all that really matters is your enjoyment of like the games. So like I'm ready personally to hit the panic button, even though PlayStation's going to be totally fine because I'm worried that like my gaming experience is going to be impacted by the decisions that they're making. I don't feel that way necessarily about the stuff that Xbox is doing. I feel like Xbox is doing great in terms of like still providing a good experience. They're still putting out good games, and I know that for a fact because the people who are getting so up in arms about whether or not Xbox is getting attention is because they love the games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like at the end of the day, that's the thing that's most important. Are they putting out games that you love? Yes, great. Then, you know, everything from there is gravy. It's just like watching your favorite movie and it not getting nominated for an award. It's like you said, like with the whole Grammy like metaphor. You can put out something that's like so amazing to the public, but if it doesn't follow the perfect formula when it comes to critics, it doesn't matter. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, for some reason that just hasn't like gotten to video games just yet. That like mindset is still so focused on like this game can't possibly be good if I only like it and Destin doesn't say it's a 10 out of 10. Then
Right.
like everybody takes that as like a personal attack on them. And it's just not the case. It just doesn't matter, you know? You like what you
I
like.
understand. I understand that like you can't afford every game.
Mhm.
Most people can't afford every game. So you rely on reviews to know whether or not you should
Where to
buy
put your
spend
money.
$70 on a game. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Like I
100%.
respect that. Um I also just feel like there are I don't know. I know the demo like idea has kind of gone to the wayside, but I would really love to see gaming move back into like into that,
Yeah.
you know. Let you play. I know PlayStation Plus used to do this and it was an awesome feature.
Mhm.
I don't know if they still do, but you could play the first 2 hours of the game for free.
Yeah, they have trials. Only certain games technically have them, but yeah, they've got
Okay.
trials. My favorite is that Hogwarts Legacy has a 45-minute trial, and I was just like, "What the fuck can you do with 45 minutes?"
Right.
um, but yeah, they do still do that sometimes. Uh, one thing I was gonna say to that point is that like, yes, I agree. Like, you sometimes have to put your faith in reviews to help with like deciding how to spend your money. But I can think of a great example, which is Saints Row, right? So many people did not like that game. It reviewed pretty poorly. I saw the reviews and still like kept my pre-order, did not cancel it, still got the game. I ended up enjoying it, and
Yeah.
I will absolutely campaign and say that I think that game got unfair like treatment when it came to reviews. I think people were unnecessarily harsh, but that's just my personal bias. I think coming into it. At the end of the day, though, I really don't care. If I tell somebody I played Saints Row and they're like that game that got a 6 out of 10, wow, you're a loser. That's weird. That's weird energy for that person to have over me playing a video game. So,
Yeah, I guess I'm a loser then. Whatever.
like, okay, you've never played a dud, I guess. I don't know, like a critical dud, and enjoyed it. That's crazy. That's crazy. My
Yeah,
my favorite movie growing up, one of my favorite movies was Secondhand Lions. I think that movie's probably from a critical standpoint dog shit, but whatever. I liked it. I watched it when I was
yeah,
sick. Who cares? It's not going to really change at the end of the day. It's not going to really change too much how I feel overall about something. So,
right. And it's so interesting. Like you see Modern Warfare 3 getting terrible, terrible reviews.
which one?
It's funny. My huh? Oh, you say which one? Yes. Um, People are still gonna buy it and play it. I know people aren't really playing it for the story, but um, another funny sidebar. So at Thanksgiving, we had the game on, and there was a Modern Warfare 3 commercial, and my brother and I laughed because we both turned to each other at the same time and said, "Isn't it interesting how they only have like partner streamers on this commercial saying how good the game is
Mm-hmm.
and no like critical reviews?"
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes you like, as much as journalists in general suck and journalism sucks because it's all still trying to get clicks, at least it's not paid personalities.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think that is the right road to go down. As much as I do not like journalism, I would prefer it over paid kids with perms.
uh I I plugged Modern Warfare 3 into Metacritic, and so Modern Warfare 3, the original, some might say, had an 88. Modern Warfare 3, the original, one might say, on the DS had a 57. Modern Warfare 2, the new one, has a 75. Modern Warfare 2, the original, has a 94.
Hell yeah.
Modern Warfare, the new one, has an 80. Modern Warfare, the original, has a 94. And Modern Warfare 3, the new one, has a 56.
I just don't know why they still make. Wait, what does anyone have?
A 56?
Oh, okay, good. I heard 96. I was like, what?
You're like, no!
There's no way. Um, I don't understand why they're still putting story into those games.
I don't understand why they can't just come up with a new name somehow.
Right. There's
it's
plenty
just,
of wars.
it's just terrible. Just say 4. Just say Modern Warfare 4. Who cares? All right, we should probably end this one.
I have one more thing. It's not
Please.
political. Well, it is kind of political, but I learned, or was at least reminded, I can't decide, that Baldur's Gate was supposed to have some sort of uh, deal with Stadia.
Nuh-uh, really?
I don't know. See, I was reading about it, and it seems like people couldn't decide if it was just a marketing deal or if it was like a timed exclusivity deal because um essentially Stadia was like it was easier to port to Stadia if you were building like a PC first game.
Sure.
So, I mean, you think about the time that I imagine it would have worked out this way. Baldur's Gate would have come out on PC and Stadia at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and then followed by console.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. Like, it would, it would be Stadia ready upon PC release.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that would make
Um,
sense.
it's amazing to think about what would have happened if they could have held out another 6 months.
Yeah, the only thing that I would kind of throw in is that like would would people have still gone to Stadia to play it, or would people just been like, I'm just gonna play it on PC.
I mean, if you don't have a PC to play on, like a full-fledged gaming PC,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
because it's not like it. I mean, it was intensive enough that you couldn't just run it on a regular like. I don't think I have a computer that could run it.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think mine could. Yeah, no, that's fair. It's definitely an interesting thought. Schrodinger's Baldur's Gate.
Yeah,
Hmm. What could have been?
but now Stadia is being resurrected into YouTube, so there's hope yet.
Let's go. Let's freaking go, dude. All right. Well, any last ditch Xbox tax
Oh,
points?
how much time do we have? I do want to do a little experiment.
Oh,
If you haven't done this already,
okay.
do we have time to pull up the Metacritics? And we'll just use Metacritic for the sake of simplicity. I understand this isn't a good metric. Um, Pull up the Metacritic scores for every game that was nominated for Game of the Year,
Yep.
knowing that Starfield was an 83.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
to kind of drive home our point.
Yeah.
I assume that's my hypothesis.
Okay, Baldur's Gate 3. I'm just going to take the first score I see. So technically this is technically for PC. Baldur's Gate 3 is a 96. Um Come on now. Spider-Man 2 without a hyphen. Couldn't possibly know what I meant, I guess, on Metacritic. Maybe. I promise I'm trying.
I know. I appreciate you.
What else? Instead of Spider-Man 2, it was Tears of the Kingdom.
Wait, what was Spider-Man 2?
It didn't it wasn't loading, so I'm gonna try and just search for something else
Oh,
real
okay.
quick. Tears of the Kingdom had a 96. Let me just make sure this is actually May 12th, 2023. Okay. Super Mario Wonder.
You said you were just taking the first one, the Metascore.
Yep, yeah, I'm just taking the Metascore. Super Mario Bros.
Okay.
Wonder is a 92.
Spider-Man 2 is a 90.
Oh, nice, you got it. I'm actually shocked it was only a 90. And then what? It was
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Got a 93. What are we missing?
Alan
Alan Wake
Wake.
2.
Wow. That
88.
one was, yeah. 94 on. Wait, okay. Were you looking at the PS5 score?
Not for everything. I was just looking at whatever was like up first.
This is weird. Okay. I'm gonna stick with 88 because it's saying PS5 is 88, PC is 89, Xbox is 94. But Xbox has a much smaller sample size and it's only 14 reviews, whereas PS5 has 69. Nice.
Nice.
And PC has 50. So I think I'm going to trust the PS5 and PC rating more.
Okay.
There.
And then I'm just going to do Hi Fi Rush just to get an idea.
Yeah. It's a good
Hi
one.
Fi Rush was an 87. So
Yeah. So
everything was an 88 plus, I think.
yeah. And
Um,
I would say that is a good metric for consideration.
yeah,
And
for the
I,
most part, I think it gives you a solid baseline. I mean, Diablo 4, right, is the new one. That I think had
yeah.
over a 90.
Really?
Yeah, Final Fantasy, we could throw that in the machine and get an idea there, but
And
Diablo
I don't,
Diablo 4 I guess has an 86.
okay.
So it's not amazing. Then what was the other one? Final Fantasy 16, right? Is the newest one. think that was like one of our honorable mentions. That was an
Mhm.
87 as well. So
What about what was the indie game?
Sea of Stars,
Sea of Stars, yeah.
good call. 88.
Yeah, so that could have been eligible.
Yeah, I mean, again, like not that that needs to be the only thing, but
I mean, it's
certainly
I don't
helps, right? Certainly a
right.
baseline consideration, you know.
I just like I don't know. I feel like the Game Awards has an industry reputation to uphold,
Mm-hmm.
and so they can't like invalidate the general consensus.
Definitely. And I mean, do I think an 83 could be nominated for Game of the Year? Yes. Is this the year? No.
Yeah,
There's just too much other noise. There's just too much other
right.
stuff. You know what I mean? And I think most years you'll probably easily find 6 games most years that are um hovering around a 90 plus. Like I don't think that's like insane to think. But the fact that there are so many this year, like it's way more than 6.
Hmm.
Um, just shows like how stiff the competition is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Next year, maybe we can take a look back and call ourselves foolish or pat ourselves on the back for being right, based on an obvious game either getting the nomination or not. And if the obvious game gets the nomination, then I think you know we looked at this the right way. And if an Xbox game that got a 99 on Metacritic is only nominated for its like specific subcategory, then I think we can say, oh shit, we were wrong.
Yeah. And we're not going to have a Forza game next year, so.
Phew, thank God. Oh, we don't have to worry about that. All right, well, this is great. Let us know in the comments. You can go over to the YouTube channel. Let us know what you think. Do you think there is an unfair bias against Xbox? What do you have to back it up? Let us know. Let us know where you think we may or may not have been right or wrong, and we'd appreciate that. As always, if you could leave us a rating or a review wherever you do listen to this podcast, that would also be greatly appreciated. And last thing that would be greatly appreciated, as we greatly appreciate you appreciating us, is that you greatly appreciate this podcast over to a friend or family member, somebody who might enjoy it, so that they can greatly appreciate you as much as we do. Other than that, that'll do it. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will talk to you. Will we be giving predictions next week? Is that right? Do I have my timeline right? I think we might be giving Game Awards predictions next week. So we'll
Well,
see you
let's
then.
see. It's the 6th, right? The Game Awards?
I think it's Friday. It's a Friday, right?
Oh, the 8th. Yeah, that might make sense. Yeah, so that would be a good time.
Perfect. I look forward to it, sir.
Likewise.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.